All right, we're actually live now here on YouTube, ready to start this show and get things on the road as we're waiting a few more minutes for see if anyone wants to join us in the chat. As Keith is busily playing a game on his Xbox or PlayStation 4.
360, Xbox 360.
Oh, I'm sorry, 360.
I'm old school.
I don't know if that's considered old school anymore, but okay.
Close enough for government work.
But I think we could start the show now. Are you ready, sir?
I am ready.
Okay. Welcome to the Classic Faserip podcast. I'm Vince, sitting here with Keith for another week of Marvel goodness. How you doing, Keith?
I am well, Vince. Thank you for inviting me back.
You're a co-host. I don't have to invite you. You're always here, sir.
That's very true.
So yeah, we're live as usual on Saturday on YouTube. We're a little bit earlier than normal, but you know what? It doesn't really matter because either people listen to it either via audio or just go watch the video because we always show some wonderful things as far as the community projects go, which we will get into in just a moment. We're just going to talk a little bit this week to start the show off with Marvel Phase 4 announcements that were at San Diego Comic-Con. We have a lot of really exciting news coming out of there about what the new movies are coming out in the next 2 to 3 years.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, some people aren't happy. Some people are really excited. I'm going to say I'm in the boat of more happy than not. So, what about you overall before we get into it?
Well, there are things that I'm excited to see. Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings.
Yep.
The Hawkeye TV series, the WandaVision TV series, the sequel to Doctor Strange, Bucky and the Winter Soldier and the Falcon, I think will be pretty cool. I think, although at the same time, that and like the Thor Love and Thunder thing is probably gonna piss some fanboys off. I would well
Well,
imagine.
we'll get into that in a few minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, since you went into everything, but let's get right into it. So, first of all, going down the list of Phase 4 announcements to San Diego Comic Con, we have Black Widow, the movie coming out, which I'm definitely looking forward to because I like this character and I like where it's going. What are you
Oh,
looking for? I know you're definitely looking for this movie.
yeah, and that's one of those things where I think it should have been done about 3 to 5 years earlier. I really think it should have been done more Phase 3 in between Cap and the Avengers, so as to give her a little bit of backstory and where she's at and who she was. And I'm a little, it's a little odd to see it coming now in the face of what happened. So it's one of those things where, I'm looking forward to it regardless. I've been a big fan of Black Widow since the Marvel Fanfare stuff and since the miniseries, and I thought there was plenty of stuff to do with the character. Whether it was bringing in Yelena, the other Black Widow, or the Iron Maiden character, you have Red Guardian, you have Taskmaster, you have plenty of stuff coming, exciting stuff. And it's befitting that if this is going to, if, and I don't know anything, but if this is going to be the last time she plays the character, you might as well go out with a big story.
Yeah, I'm looking over the news. Iron Maiden, you're right. Taskmaster, Tony Masters.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty interesting stuff coming down for that. Hopefully, we'll see some good things from that.
Oh, yeah.
We also got the announcements, like you had said, was the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, where that comes out fall 2020. So there's no hard date for that, but they did confirm that Mackie will at the panel will be wearing Cap's uniform and will be carrying the shield. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, you're going to have people who will enjoy seeing that. You're going to have people who will enjoy complaining about it. I've got a very good friend who has already, I'll never watch it. I won't have anything to do with it, all because of them changing it. And he's like social justice warrior this and social justice warrior that. And it's like, look, all of this happened about 5 or 6, 7 years ago now in the comic books. I said, this isn't anything new. They're rehashing what they did in the comic book. They're just doing it in on a platform that's now global as opposed to more United States central, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, I understand. I have no issue with them changing things up as long as it was done in the comic books, which it was. So
Yeah.
you really can't complain when it comes to that. Now, if it was just like, hey, we're going to do this and that because of social justice or whatever, then yeah, I could see people being pissed off. But
Yeah.
like when we get to
I
Thor in a
agree.
moment, they did it in the comics, so all people have to say is, well, here's the comic. Can't really
Yeah.
complain too much. And I mean that I know that sounds like, we're like pandering to whatever, but we're not. We're just saying here's the facts. They chose these facts. Here are the facts. Sorry. If you don't like it, just don't watch it. That's all I say, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Vote with your pocketbook
Exactly. Well, I
or your wallet.
Yeah,
If you don't like something, that's the quickest way to deal with it. Don't don't endorse it. Don't support it. But my thought on all that stuff was and still is that to a degree you gotta give them some latitude because they don't have 50 years to tell Captain America's story. You have maybe 10 years of an actor's life. If you get that lucky, and we have with Chris Evans, he's been around doing this for 10 years, he's not going to do it forever. And people say, well, if they pulled up enough money and they offered him enough cash, he would do it. Well, no, it doesn't mean that he would do it for the rest of his life. Maybe he doesn't want to. Maybe, for whatever reason. Robert Downey Jr. is getting ready. He's in his mid-50s. He was in his mid-40s when he started this. So think about it. I mean, they were like, oh, and the same friend who complained about Falcon becoming Captain America was like, well, they could offer him enough money he could be in a support role. It's like, no, they've killed him off in the movies. What do you want? It can't go on forever. It does end sometime. And I think I actually applaud Christopher Nolan for doing it first with Batman and actually giving Batman, in terms of the movie, an ending that you would never see in the comic books. He lives to see his fight carried on by somebody else and gets the girl and goes off to have a life.
Speaking of that ending you're speaking of with Joseph Gordon-Levitt, I believe his name, is taking over the Bat mantle. Uh,
Yeah.
I was when I saw that, I was kind of excited about that. I'm like, ooh, if this is actually going to continue, I would love to see this. But of course, we never got it. So,
No, no.
but it left it open, so they could have done that. But they're not even going to bother with that story. So,
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, it's just, I look at it this way. It's an exciting time to be a comic book fan, whether you're a Marvel fan or whether you're a DC fan, whether you like Dark Horse or Image Comics. There is plenty to love for everybody. And if you don't in some way support this stuff, whether it's subscribe to the Disney app and watch the TV shows that are coming on the Disney app, or watch the Netflix version of the Marvel Universe, or Agents of Shield, Gifted, Legion, whatever it was you were watching before. If you're not watching it now, if you're not supporting in some way, someday it's all going to be gone.
yeah.
And there's a whole generation of kids that have no concept of what that's like. I mean, you think about it. The Marvel Cinematic Universe started in 2007. There's an entire group of kids, I would say anybody from about 15 down, they have no concept, no real concept of what that was like before then. I mean, yeah, we had an X-Men movie or we had a Blade movie, but you didn't have Iron Man, you didn't have the Avengers, you didn't have Captain America showing up in Thor's movie.
No, there were no
Or
crossovers or universe
there
or
was no
anything. Yeah.
crossover. I mean, occasionally you would get something like, "Oh, well, the circus is halfway to Metropolis by now, Dick," you know, or you would get some comment about how, yeah, this is why Superman works alone, and that would be, and in those times in that place, you were thrilled to get that. You were like, "Oh, they acknowledge Superman.
Hmm.
Oh my God!"
Yeah, yeah.
And now you have an actual universe that deals with, you see this interconnectivity that you always saw in the comic books. And it didn't in the comic books. Spider-Man might swing through and yell something at the Human Torch, or the Human Torch might fly by and yell something at Spider-Man, and then that was it. Or it may be like a two-issue crossover. It just depended on what was going on and where it was happening at the time.
Yeah, we're in a good time. Yeah, I know people are like, oh, isn't it like about time for comic book movie fatigue? I think it's just as popular as it's ever been. So,
Yeah.
and we can thank the X-Men for jumping all this off. I think, at least in my book, because they were the most popular movies out of all the comic book movies, because it was the X-Men.
Well, them, Spider-Man, the Sam Raimi Spider-Man, and the Blade movie. Those three really sort of started off what we have now. And I can remember watching the first X-Men movie going, man, the costumes don't look anything alike. Some of the characterization's way off, but at least we're getting the X-Men. It's a Blackbird jet flying around. There's, Storm shooting lightning at people, and Magneto with a helmet, and
Yellow spandex for the costumes.
exactly.
They nodded to the
Exactly.
comics, at least. I mean,
And now when Marvel finally does it, I got a feeling we're actually going to get real costumes. It's not going to be the black leather. I mean, think about it. Everything that they've done so far has been, you know, uh, as realistic as they could make it for the characters involved.
I'm not sold on them putting the X-Men in yellow spandex just to appease the fans for the old school X-Men. I don't see that happening.
Well, honestly, other than Wolverine's original costume, who had yellow spandex? I mean, if you're talking the black and yellow school uniforms, that lasted what, like 5, 6, 7 issues, and then they were giving them individual costumes.
I thought they had the original X-Men run. They all had the yellow spandex.
It was yellow and black, and it actually, I think, I can't remember the specific issue, but I want to say, if not before the 12th one, by mid-teens, it was gone. And that's when they started introducing the concept of individual costumes. Cyclops always sort of kept the same costume, but then again, that was Cyclops. I mean, he was the team leader, so. But everybody else, Marvel Girl got the costume that she would have for forever. Iceman has always pretty much been the same, except for when he looked like a snowman.
True.
And Beast, had a couple different costume changes before he became blue and furry. Angel has pretty much stayed the same. Havoc has had the same costume since the mid-'60s until they changed it recently. Polaris, thank God, changed costumes a couple times. But I mean, I really think that you could do, in my mind, 4 or 5 movies easy with the original X-Men team. I mean, if you really wanted to do it justice, do just them. If you did a 7th X-Men movie, heaven forbid you would do a 7th X-Men movie. You could do the whole giant-sized X-Men #1, Krakoa, the attack of the island that walks or whatever, Krakoa. And then you have the new team come in and they're off to the races. And you could do probably a whole nother 7 with just them.
I still haven't seen that last X-Men movie that came out because I don't know. I wasn't feeling it, to be honest. Was it Dark Phoenix? Yeah, I was like, they did that already. I wasn't into it.
Well, my mother always taught me that if you have nothing polite to say, you probably shouldn't say anything at all. But I'll say this. If you have the guy who wrote the other version of the Dark Phoenix movie, The Last Stand, come in and write and direct this one, what makes you think it's going to suck any less? And I mean, from a studio standpoint, they probably should have pumped the brakes and said, we need to talk about this. What are we doing here? And there were talks of how they changed stuff radically. Honestly, I don't know. I think that they were probably, I think he probably tried his best, but from everything I've read, they talked about how stuff was being rewritten on the fly on the set by him and, of all people, Sophie Turner, who played Jean Grey.
Yeah.
And I'm like, is she a writer? Has she written anything? I mean, I can say I'm a writer, and I meet the narrowest of criteria for that. According to Stephen King, in order to know whether you're talented or not, all you ever had to have done was been paid for one thing and used that paycheck that did not bounce to pay another bill, and thereby you've got talent and you're a writer.
Oh wow!
So I mean, I meet that criteria, but that doesn't mean I could write a movie.
Guess I meet the criteria too.
So.
Well, we'll have to wait for X-Men stuff. We'll wait and see what they do, and let's not continue down this path. Back to the announcements. We have the Eternals coming out in November of 2020. I have to say, I never read the Eternals. I know nothing about the Eternals, so yay?
I'm excited about the Eternals. I'm excited about they are finally taking Jack Kirby's creations and putting them out into the world in the biggest, baddest way possible. I'm waiting to see which one hits the audience first, Eternals or New Gods. because it's essentially variations on the same theme. I mean, as a matter of fact, if you read the DC Who's Who, when you look up new gods, it says they're sometimes referred to as the Eternals.
Whoops.
Yeah. So the idea that Jack Kirby's creations, these some of his final creations, are actually making it to the scene, onto the screen, including the Celestials.
While I'm really excited about New Gods, but I'm a long-term DC comic book fan. So,
Yeah,
and I like Jack Kirby stuff. So I can appreciate it. Most of the people that I know, I've said the New Gods movie, they're like, "Who? What's a new god?"
exactly.
And only a few of my friends will get it because they watch like Young Justice or they watch the DC anime stuff. So
Yeah,
they understand because they do involve New Gods quite a bit in the animes and Young Justice. So they're like, "Oh, those things from Young Justice." I'm like, "Well, they're a little bit more than that, but at least you understand." But a majority of people are going to be like, "Who knew what?"
exactly.
Unless there's something like, "Hey, Superman showing up," or Batman's going to be. Well, I don't see why Batman would be in it, but just an example, they're going to be like, "Yeah, I don't really care."
Exactly. I mean, and
Who
you
does the
gotta,
Eternals
you're
have?
gonna have to build. They're gonna have to shake the bushes and build an excitement for Eternals. Now, your average comic book fan, your average Marvel fan, will probably know we're talking about. Uh, your average man on the street,
No.
my son would go, "Who? What?
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, who are they? What's that?" And I would have to sit down and explain it to him, and even then, he'd probably go, "Oh, was Captain America in it?" No. So, and it's one of those. And the thing that got me in looking at the casting for Eternals is they gender bent some of the characters, changing them from male to female. And I'm like, that's interesting. I wonder what led to that. And I mean, it's more of a curiosity thing. Like, I think Selma Hayek is playing Ajax, who is, very much a male character in the comic books. And they got a woman playing Makari, who is very much a male in the comic books. So it's like, that's strange. Why did you go this route of,
Oh, interesting that Thanos was one of the Eternals,
uh huh,
and
sure,
Darkseid was one of the involved with the New Gods. Gee,
uh huh.
that wasn't too much of a hey, these things are similar on both sides.
Well, and the funny part is that originally when Jim Starlin created Thanos, he looked more like Metatron from New Gods. And the editor at Marvel basically told him, if you're going to rip off a good one like Darkseid. And that's why Thanos looks like Thanos does now. And why he, has the personality and power set that he does. So,
Looks like we have, like you said, Salma Hayek playing Ajax, Angelina Jolie playing Thena, and Kumal Najani, unnamed character. But I'm interested to see who he's going to play.
yeah.
Hmm.
I always thought if they were going to do like if they were ever going to bring Hercules in,
Yeah.
what they should do is get the other Hemsworth brother to play Hercules, and just have them play off of one another.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of Thor, though, I guess we need to talk about the elephant in the room on that one.
When we get to that, that's still down the line of all those things. We'll get to that.
Okay. Okay.
We have Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, which does come out in February of 2021, which is considered Chinese New Year. Move over Iron Fist. Nah, maybe not. We got Shang-Chi.
Let's hope that people will forget about Iron Fist and remember Shang-Chi at the end of the day. Because of all the stuff they did on Netflix, I think that was the biggest misstep of them all. And I don't know how you could have done anything different with the character and made it more palatable to people. But I mean, Shang-Chi has a long history, and there's people who are, yes, he started off as a caricature of Bruce Lee in the Chopsaki movies of the 70s. but he became so much more than that. And I'm glad that they're getting away from the Fu Manchu origins and actually making it more of a Marvel centric villain, the Mandarin. Uh, so it'll be interesting to see.
Then we have WandaVision, which is spring 2021. They don't really have anything about that at all, but it was announced. But it's going to be in the 50s, it looks like. That's what the article's saying. It's going to be set in the 50s, and not sure what it's going to be. But we'll see. Then we have Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness on May 2021, which we're going to get more multiverse goodness because they alluded to the whole multiverse in Into the Spider-Verse, which was excellent.
Yes.
And we got the cute 2099 Spider-Man at the very, very end after the credits. So looking forward to that. And also Marvel did announce that we get 2099 comics back.
Yeah.
Which I'm really, really, really interested to see what they're going to bring back in that. Because I really did enjoy... what was it?
Ravager 2099?
No. I was a big fan of Punisher 2099 and Spider-Man, and I think there was a Doom 2099, if I remember correctly.
There was.
And I was a fan of at least, I vaguely remember Doom, and I was like, this is kind of cool. And I think I might have picked up one of them, but I know I definitely was a Punisher reader and a Spider-Man reader, so I'm looking forward to those if they're coming back, which I hope they are.
You know, and that's another thing. I think their biggest misstep with the 2099 stuff was naming it such and such 2099, like X-Men 2099, Doom 2099. I think that if they'd have just made it an imprint like Ultimate Comics, 2099 comics, and then 2099 comics Spider-Man, I think you'd have been better off doing it that way. Because at the end, all they were wanting to do after Ravager didn't work out was they were recycling everything. Oh, Captain America 2099, Thor 2099, Fantastic Four 2099.
It was like that series that DC did during the time. I can't think of it. It was that they had all those really awful characters that came out of it, and and the Hitman character came out. Remember the Hitman comic book?
Bloodlines.
Thank you, Bloodlines. That awful disaster of a storyline, and then got all these weird characters they tried to make comic books out of, and everyone went, "What? Why?" Yeah. So
well, it was like 0 Hour, all the stuff that spun out of 0 Hour, and what stuck, Impulse and Starman.
Yeah,
and I mean Starman was great. But James Robinson has never had that same level of hit ever again.
Stephen Watson in our chat room is saying Stan Lee created Ravager 2099, and we have, yes, Doom, X-Men, Hulk, Punisher, Spider-Man, all with 2099.
Yep. That's Stephen Watson. He needs to be on the show.
Yeah, he does. I invited him on the show. He said he eventually will come on the show. So
sure he will. He's hiding.
He's hiding. So we have Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, or in the Multiverse of Madness, on May 2021. Don't know much about this movie, but I hope it's going to be good.
Yeah. Looking forward to it. I was never a huge Doctor Strange fan. I had a friend who was a much bigger fan than I was, and he passed away a few years ago. And ever since then, I find myself wanting to get more into the character. If not for me, then for him. I could say that I saw it for him. Yeah,
I understand. Just read it, remember him. His honor, his memory. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was one of those things where he just absolutely loved that character, and there's a lot of people that do, and it's just, I think that they need to find somebody who can really do that character some justice in the comic books. And I tell you, in my mind, if they were ever going to hire somebody to write it, Neil Gaiman in Doctor Strange. I don't know why. They probably have tried it and maybe he's not interested. But I would think that he would be perfect for it.
Actually, you're right.
I mean, think about what he did with Sandman. Imagine an 80-issue run of Doctor Strange with Neil Gaiman and all the little esoteric stuff that he likes to throw into it. And man, I would go back to reading comics monthly for that. All right, I would subscribe. I would have it delivered to my house, something, and I don't say that lightly about a lot of stuff, but that I would.
I am still I pick up comics monthly all the time, and I'll read them. But unfortunately, we got the bloat of Bendis right now, which you and I are both not very high on him. People like him, but he has his hand in way too. He has his hand in way too many comics right now. I gave him one more chance, and he's doing Event Leviathan for DC right now, and 2 issues in, no, you can put the cross down. 2 issues in, he actually has done a solid job. Maybe because he's not doing it because he's spread so thin.
I want you to turn around and show me the back of your neck so I know you're not a pod person. Pod person.
But yeah, we also have on the agenda here What If, which I'm definitely looking forward to. Even if it is just an animated series, I'm interested to see what they do with this What If.
And I read something where it said basically it's going to be confined to the first 10 years of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That the What If storylines will weave in and out of those movies from that time period.
According to this, most of the MCU actors will reprise their roles as voiceover form. So, okay.
Which, here's your Robert Downey Jr. Iron Man.
Are we going to see Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man? That could be a what if story. What if Tobey Maguire? What if Sam Raimi made Spider-Man 4?
I had when they were doing X-Men, I always thought that they should do let me rephrase that. When they were doing Spider-Man, I always thought that they should do the scene that they do in all the, if you go back and you look at the classic Spider-Man stuff, where everybody's reacting to Spider-Man being on the news. And it's like, the Avengers sitting around a TV going, who is this kid? And I said, I always thought it would be hysterical if you could hire the people to come in and just, man in wheelchair. And it's Patrick Stewart going, I wonder, and the guy playing Cyclops in the background with the sunglasses on going, what? Who is that guy? What is that? And I always thought it would be great if you had them do that with the Tobey Maguire and J.K. Simmons before they finally had J.K. Simmons come back. I thought it would have been hysterical just for him to, J.K. Simmons turning around yelling, take the picture. And then, you see the photographer taking it maybe from the back or whatever, and he turns around and it's Tobey Maguire yelling at him, I got the picture, shut up, And,
yeah.
Of course, now they don't have to. Now they have everybody set up that they're in there and,
Well, it was trending for a little while a couple weeks ago, Spider-Man 4, and I thought they actually had announced at the San Diego Comic-Con that Sam Raimi was going to do Spider-Man 4 with Tobey Maguire because it was all these pictures, but apparently someone was just, lying as usual with, screwing with people. So,
yeah.
I was a little pissed because I really did like the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man stuff. I don't care what people say. All right.
I enjoyed the first 2 much more than I enjoyed the last one.
You didn't like him dancing down the street and being all cool and everything?
Emo. They call that emo.
Emo Spider-Man? Yeah.
No, I didn't like emo Spider. I didn't like him until I saw into the Spider-Verse. Then I liked him.
Oh, okay. Anyway, we got the Hawkeye TV show, which there's no date for that. I'm assuming that'll be out sometime shortly after the Disney app is official. But we do have Hawkeye training the new Hawkeye, Kate Bishop. She's Hawkeye now.
And somewhere Steve Jolly is listening to this going nuts, even as we speak. because I thought I was a big fan of Hawkeye. No, ladies and gentlemen, Steve Jolly is the biggest fan of Hawkeye you will ever meet.
Really?
Anybody who can tell you all of the Hawkeye's trick arrows in alphabetical order backwards is a much bigger fan than I am, and that's him.
Okay.
That's him. So
All right. Yeah, I more of a Green Arrow fan, but anyway, no, I'm teasing.
I like Ollie too.
I think someone put up a picture the other couple weeks ago. I remember seeing it. I don't know if it was someone in our group, but they were like, "Oh, world-ending event, aliens attacking. Good thing I brought 20 arrows, and it's Hawkeye." So I responded with a picture of, Arrow from Arrowverse, and he's holding a bow and arrow. I said, 20 arrows. You remember that season? I only shot 2 arrows. That's all I need. That was actually more
That's
of a.
it.
That was actually more of a joke on my side because he spent an entire season on that show shooting 2 arrows, and his name is Green Arrow. So yeah, we
Yeah.
got the Hawkeye movie, which he'll be training his protege and his up and coming replacement. Hopefully that'll go pretty well. Don't see them dragging that out too long with the old Hawkeye there, maybe a season, and then have him, if it goes more than one season, which I'm assuming it will, have him do a cameo here and there with like advice or something. That's how I see it play out, but who knows? And then we have the one that you've been referencing and everybody's been waiting for, Thor: Love and Thunder.
Oh yeah.
So this is where we see some changes in Thor that a lot of people are pissed off about. And we see Natalie Portman come back to take the mantle of Thor. And most people are absolutely angry about this. And the only reason I am a little annoyed about this is the fact it's Natalie Portman. That's it. Because she was the one that crapped all over Marvel, left Marvel, and was not going to do anything to do with Marvel. And then all of a sudden, I'm Thor. Look at that. I love Marvel. Yay, Marvel. Here's my Marvel sign. Yay. That's the only issue I have with it. Other than that, I could say, for those people out there that are bitching, I think there was this storyline a couple years ago in comics when that did happen. So, sorry. I mean, they're just picking that timeline. What are you going to do?
And somebody said, well, how could she be Thor if Thor doesn't have Mjolnir? And I wanted to reply to that. Mjolnir actually is on Earth broken in Norway, on that hillside in Norway.
Right.
I mean, it's there. So it could be found. My only question now is she going to have Kat Dennings chasing her around behind her with, like the Warriors 3? So
No. You, sir, no. Last thing we do get is we get another Blade movie, which Blade will now be in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
yeah. That actually, my understanding is that's going to be Phase 5.
Yeah,
That's that they just announced that the actor has joined. The actor, then the Academy Award winning actor, basically called Marvel and said, "I'm going to do Blade," and they said, "Okay." Despite the fact that he was in Luke Cage as Cottonmouth. So, but I mean, he's a hell of an actor. This guy, here's the thing is, I don't care who they cast for these parts as long as they get somebody who's decent, whether it's Wesley Snipes, who was gracious enough to, when the announcement was made, people, I guess, went on his Twitter and were trying to get him to elicit some response, and his response basically was, congratulations on being the next in what I hope is a long line of daywalkers. It was me before, now it's you, carry it forward, good luck with it, basically nothing but praise for him. So, and how could you not like that? I mean, how could you not? He was gracious enough to, he could have been pissy about it, but let's be realistic. That nobody wants anybody who's going to act like that.
Honestly, how's that even going to help his career? He can be pissy all he wants. It's not going to help his career. Not going to give him a chance to get a cameo in the movie.
That's it. And that's the other thing. I mean, as it stands now, if Marvel is smart. What they'll do is they'll have him cameo in some capacity. Maybe make him an executive producer. Uh,
Yep.
he's got the know-how for it. I mean, he knows the character. Get him to come in and executive produce.
Exactly.
What would it hurt? You would engender fan loyalty. You would have him as a part of the whatever was going on. So
They also announced we'll also be hearing some things from Captain Marvel 2, Black Panther 2, Spider-Man 3, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and Fantastic Four as well. And X-Men are somewhere in the future. No announcement of what phase they'll be in, but I'm assuming it'll probably be Phase 5. Maybe
yeah,
further than that. But that's that. And they also did mention there will be no more Stan Lee cameos going forward, which put the door open for people saying, I want Deadpool doing the cameos now.
no,
You're just no.
no.
I'm sensing
I don't
you're
have,
not really
I
a
don't have
fan
any
of
say
Deadpool.
in it, but no.
I'm sensing you're not a big fan of Deadpool. Am I right here?
No, I like Deadpool. Deadpool is fine, but Deadpool doesn't need a cameo in every movie. Just like Spider-Man doesn't need a cameo in every comic book, or Wolverine, or whatever. So, if it makes sense, Deadpool and the X-Men, absolutely, that makes sense to me. Uh, Deadpool in Avengers 5, no, doesn't make a bit of sense to me. I don't see it. What are you going to do? Is he going to join the group? I don't see him being a member of the Avengers. I mean,
Just making a little cameo. That's all.
Yeah. Can I join the team? No.
Yeah, something like that. But I started X-Force. No.
That's it.
All right, so on to the community stuff, which we'll go through here. Some of the things that just dropped this week, which we're really excited about, because one of them is a big drop. And
huge.
This
it's
is just
huge.
Huge. So this is a screenshot of just the drop box of what. If you come here to my YouTube channel, check out my this podcast on here. You can see the screenshot here that I have. We have the complete Shield box set, Marvel Superhero Shield box up, done by Tom Partyman Plaza. Am I saying his last name right? Because you had pronounced it.
I believe so. I believe it's Plaza.
Yeah. So yeah,
it could be Paleza.
I think he says his last name was like Classa, but Plaza, maybe like that. But I apologize, Tom. He's a good guy, and he just did this box set. So what we got here is we have 3 maps, an adventure, the actual cover for a box, if you want to actually print out a box, which I don't know how many people will do that, but he gave you the option to do that. He also has the campaign book, which we'll get to in a moment, and the Shield roster. So let me just open the Shield campaign book. This is what it looks like, the campaign book. And we have what it looks like, 80 pages of Shield goodness. And for those wondering out there, this is not Shield, Agents of Shield TV-wise. This is all comic book as far as I can tell. He may have maybe had some nods to the TV show in here, but I didn't have a chance because it just dropped this week, so I didn't have a full chance to actually go through it all because it's big, this book.
I sent Tom, I did some stats for the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. TV show characters a while back, and I sent it to Tom. I don't know if Tom decided whether he was going to use it in the box set or not. I know because they did introduce the characters in the comics. Now
they did. They're right.
Whether he used the stats or whether he used my stats or his own stats or whatever, I don't know. But it's one of those things where that is one hell of a box set. It is huge, huge, huge in nature. And I all joking aside, this is, if you ever saw the X-Men box set where they're running away from the explosion, it's that size. I mean, easily, if not bigger. And Tom has been working on this thing, I think, for pretty much over a year now. And it's a one-man show.
Yeah?
Yeah, so I mean...
Did he do the layout himself?
I believe he did.
Okay.
I believe he did. I don't think that Steve Jolly actually did it, as I remember it. And I actually got an advanced copy of the roster book, I don't know, probably a year ago. is when I saw it and was like, "Holy Moses! I can't believe how many characters." And there were characters in there I'd like never heard of, and there were characters who I knew exactly who they were. And I'm like, "Man, you've got like everybody in here." And Tom was like, "Yeah, uh, everybody." So if he missed somebody, it would be a real surprise to me. I couldn't think of anybody that he possibly could have missed.
And he has
Uh,
sword in here as well.
who?
He put the sword division in here as well.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, and Tom did a heck of a job.
I'm just going through the pages right now so people who are on YouTube here can actually see what's going on. And those people listening to this audio at home, you can head over to youtube.com/c/theevildm and you can go check out this episode, which should be available when this audio is available as well, which should probably be Monday at this point. Usually I wait a few days to edit and then throw it up. Not like vomit throw it up, but throw it up.
Well,
All right, so we got 80 pages here, another bunch of pages there. So it's a full box set, really thick. Definitely go grab that. And then finally, which dropped in the Uncanon Project team, was the giant-sized new Marvel file, July 25th, 2019, The Champions of Marvel.
Yep.
Which is a group effort by almost everybody in the group, I'm being told.
Yeah. I was in there, Andrew Goldstein, bunch of people.
Tony Cranfield as well, Steve Jolly. Yep, everybody's in here. Steve did the layout for this, I'm assuming, because usually he does a lot of layouts.
I think he did. Maybe he did. I'm not entirely sure. That was one that Andrew was having trouble with 4 or 5 characters, and I said, "Well, hey, I tell you what, I will throw some stats at it and see what I can get." And sat down and sort of did some stats for him. And I said, "Well, do you need histories or whatever?" And he said, "No, I just need stats." And I said, "Okay." So I let him handle the history. And then, of course, people were like, "Oh, those stats are wrong." And I'm like, "Well, okay."
I see in our chat.
Makes,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
If the stats make sense to the Marvel unofficial Marvel handbook, then I don't know how they can be wrong. But it's it's like the paper it's printed on. It's about how much it's worth. So you can either take it as my interpretation, or you can do your own interpretation, or and for the people who always complain that the stats don't ever seem right to them, I noticed that a lot of people doing that are people who never contribute. So if you contribute something, you at least say, "Well, I stood my ground and said this, and this is what I think." So
yes,
that's just me, though.
Yes, I did call it the Uncanon Project. Shut up, Stephen Watson, in the chat. The unofficial canon project. There, I call it the Uncanon Project because it's a shorter name. He's making fun of me in our chat for me saying that. So I guess you didn't catch my screw up.
Oh, I did. I just didn't say anything.
Oh, okay. We do get some Spider-Man in here. I see Morales Spider-Man, which is really cool looking.
Miss Marvel, the current Miss Marvel, Ironheart, Vision's daughter,
Viv. Mm-hmm.
Yep, the new Nova, whatever Amadeus Cho is calling himself nowadays.
Braun.
He's an Incredible Hulk character. Yeah, Braun. So yeah, I mean, you have a lot of fun Generation Z characters to throw out there.
Ironheart. Yeah. A lot of goodness in here.
Warriors. Yeah.
You have to go to the unofficial Canon Project on Facebook, and you can grab these, and they'll be in the file section. Just find the group. You can just basically go on Facebook. Shut up. On Facebook and just search that. Don't search Uncanon Project because you probably won't find anything under that. Well, you may find something under that. I'm not sure, but yeah, and you'll get all those things and all this goodness and everything there. But go there and pick them up. I'll try to include a link to the group directly if I can figure out how that link is shown on Facebook. Sometimes it's a pain to find links on Facebook, but
yeah,
I'll put that there. But anyway, so let's get on to the meat of the show. We Let me get rid of these PDFs here so we can chat. So some people had. I actually have a breakdown of that Shield book. So it's 261-page roster book, a 96-page campaign setting book, a 38-page adventure book, a 3-page Shield agent character sheet, pull out props, rules of engagement, pull out prop sheet of adventure evidence, map sheet that details the city streets, a bunch of warehouses, safe houses, and a print ready upper and lower box template. And he has two.
And a partridge in a pear tree.
Yes. He gave us 2 links, a actual I guess full resolution link and a reduced one for those that want to just download it and read it. Anyway. So are you awake, sir?
Yeah. Sorry, I don't sleep well.
Anyway, so the last part of this we were going to talk about today was structuring adventures for the night. When you're running a campaign and you want to write up your adventure for the night before your group gets there, or maybe you spend the week before planning, or maybe you spend the month before planning. However you do it, we were just going to chat about our methods, how we did it, and maybe it will give you some ideas. Maybe it will not give you some ideas. Maybe you'll just say you guys are idiots and just move on. Hopefully you won't. So I know personally when I do my Marvel adventures, I like to revolve things around a plot or a plot point or a MacGuffin, like an item that they can go get, and right around that. And generally what I like to do when I do that is take little notebooks like this, for example, this size. Mm-hmm. It's the size of one of those school assignment pads or something, or yeah, I guess that's what these things are considered. I don't know. I always use them for gaming, though. They're small. They're pocket sized pretty much. And I like to jot down ideas throughout the day when I'm planning. Like I'm walking around, I'll be like, oh, that's a great idea. Or I hear someone talk something about a comic book thing and I'll go look it up. Or I'm watching a TV show and I'll hear something. Like I was watching some show and I heard them talking about this project on the show that was some ancient project in military history. So I went and looked it up and I'm like, oh, this would be kind of cool. And I'm being very elusive to the topic because I may use it or I may not use it in my game. So my players may be listening so they can't figure out what TV show it is and figure out what I'm getting into. But I like to write those things down and then try to gather it all up into some type of plot for the night. And granted, players will not always take your bait for everything. And it's always that whole thing, you spend hours on this NPC that's going to give them the plot and hook, and meanwhile they spend the entire campaign talking to Jeff the Drunk in the corner at the bar because Jeff the Drunk is just so cool and interesting. Happens. What do? Transfer all the information to Jeff the Drunk, and now he becomes the whole thing that sets the adventure off. That's usually what I kind of do with those things. What about you?
Well, I find that that's probably pretty similar. What I will do, I start off with 4 or 5 players, unless I have some specific way of bringing them together at the very beginning of everything. You have to figure out some way of getting 5 or 6 different, radically different people with radically different personalities to conform and not want to beat the steel out of one another in the game in some fit of testosterone. With actually formulating an adventure, it's whatever little idea I have at the time, whether it's a continuation of the previous plot. Well, now they've got to stop Crime Master and figure out where he's operating out of, who he is, what's going on. Or maybe it's, I was watching and this is something that I did for another game altogether, but this will give you an idea. I was watching the History Channel. There's a documentary on Nikola Tesla.
Yeah.
And it talked about how, he started off as a somewhat wealthy inventor. By the end of his life, he was penniless, living in a hotel in New York. He had reputedly developed. Whether or not it actually ever existed, no one knows. But I mean, a lot of his, whether it was just theories or practical applications of what he was doing, have now come to pass. And I used that as the basis for an adventure for a Doctor Who game.
Okay.
And then throughout the campaign that I ran at the time, they would occasionally bump back into him as they appeared on Earth up until his death. And the death ray was real. It did get invented, but they sabotaged it so that it wouldn't get out into the public and be used in the 1920s and 30s. And it was really sort of an interesting game, but it's one of those things where inspiration and ideas can come from anything.
Absolutely.
And whether you're using a structure like man versus man or man versus nature, or whether you're just coming up with something like Dr. Octopus wants Ben and Jerry's ice cream and decides he's going to go trash the local mall to get it. Is it crazy? Sure. Would Dr. Octopus actually do that? Probably not, but Madcap or Deadpool would. So, the idea of use your villain to tell a story. Whether it's they just want to get the respect that they always felt they should have got, or maybe it's them trying to get some MacGuffin so that they can complete their death ray, their master plan, their plot to dominate the world, whatever. And I try to work one thing into the other. I try to do different things for different characters. Not all of my adventures revolve around the entire group. I typically do, I'll have 3 or 4 characters. I'll do one for one for another, interweave plot points from one to the next so that it works out. It's almost more novel-like storytelling as opposed to soap opera where it's different chapters focusing on different people.
Stephen Watson is saying, taking a different take on the old D&D chestnut, the characters meet in a bar and a tavern, one of which the characters owns a stake in. That way they have a reason to limit the damages in the bar or the tavern. So, yeah, that's actually a pretty cool idea. That way they would actually care about what's happening in the area.
Yeah.
Gives them some ties to the village. So, in like Marvel terms, maybe it's a building that one of your characters is running a business out of for his day job, because everybody has to have a day job in the game.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I did a game based in Bismarck, North Dakota. Okay.
Wow.
Now, obviously, if you know anything about Bismarck, North Dakota, it's tiny in real life. I made it the Marvel version of Bismarck, North Dakota, which is to say it was larger and more metropolitan. And we had a group of college students who became the local superhero team. One of which was an Indian who, he was a Lakota Indian who became the living avatar of Iktomi. Iktomi is the spider trickster god from Lakota mythology. And it was, I did a little bit of research, and the guy actually had like Spider-Man-like abilities. But the funny thing is, there's a local Indian festival here in Georgia, and my cousin happened to meet Lakota medicine man and talk to him about, hey, yeah, my cousin is doing this research on this, on Iktomi. And the guy was fascinated by the fact that somebody was actually using Lakota mythology for something other than, just whatever it's used for ordinarily. So, I mean, inspiration is where you take it. Inspiration is what you do with it. So, I mean, it's just a matter of finding something and making it work. And by the way, Andrew Goldstein will probably be covering Iktomi in some capacity in the North American Gods book that he plans on doing, because it covers the Indians and the various Native American tribes and whatnot.
Cool. I look forward to seeing that. All right, well, I think that's going to wrap up our show this week, because we're getting on that 1 hour mark, and we like to keep the shows around the 1 hour mark. What do you think?
That's it. Sounds like a plan.
Yeah, all right. So we're going to end this show this week, and if you have any questions, you can send us a email at askthedm@theevildm.com.
Oh, wait a second. There is something we need to address about Hot Pockets.
No, I'm not addressing the
You
hot
you don't want to
pockets.
address that, George?
No. I don't even have the full question that he asked today. I think it was silly. So, had to do with what's the intensity rank of the hot pockets that you eat, and the intensity rank of the gas that comes out of your butt after you eat said hot pockets.
I would say, just as a casual guess, that it's 2 points for every Hot Pocket you eat. So thereby, if you ate 5, it would be good intensity.
Yeah.
There you
Questions, ask the Evil DM at theevildm.com. Head over to the classicfaserip.com website and you can get all our past shows. All of them now, I believe, except for one, are available on YouTube. Because
And that's because they keep playing "Play That Funky Music, White Boy" in it.
no, they do not. But I got around the copyright by just saying, yes, that's fine. And I didn't realize you could do that. And that's how the shows are up now. But I spread them out so they're not just flooding the feed over and over again. So you should have episode 1, 0, 1, and 2, plus the bonus episode we did a while back on season 1 when we went over the comic book and reviewed it, which people didn't seem to really not sure what to do with it. They were just like, yeah, it was kind of cool. Yeah. So we never did it again. But anyway. I'm all for reviewing comics, but I guess a lot of people weren't into it at the time. So, whatever. Also, head over to YouTube /C/TheEvilDM for this channel. Head over to iTunes. Give us, or probably by the time people hear this in the future, it'll be Apple Podcasts. And you can actually access that anywhere. So leave us a review at Apple Podcasts because we appreciate every review we get there. And I'm talking written review, as in Keith and Vince are really awesome. No, it doesn't give us any money whatsoever.
Oh, well, worth a shot.
The only thing it does is push us up in the viewings on Apple Podcasts so people see
Say good things about us.
Yes.
Say bad things about us. Just say something about us.
As long as it's 5 stars, and we appreciate it. No.
Yeah.
However many stars you want, we appreciate it. Head over there. Also, I know Google Podcast does some type of rating system, but I'm not sure how it works because I don't have anything Google except the podcast is there. Yeah. But anyway, enjoy that and everything more, and we will be back in a couple weeks with another wonderful episode with more things from the community and more news in the Marvel Universe. So, as Stan Lee would say, Excelsior.
Enough said.